Welcome everyone. This is Santi. Welcome to Time Flies, and I'm here with Andrew. Andrew, can you introduce yourself real quick?
Hey guys, this is Andrew Kearns. I'm 25 years old, living in Everett, Washington. Want to know
Right.
anything else? Favorite color is blue.
Favorite color is blue, right?
Actually, it's cerulean. It's a very specific
Oh,
shade of
cerulean. Which is
blue.
cerulean? Is it lighter,
It's
darker?
like probably a little bit lighter, closer on the way to teal, but not very
Right.
teal. Like it's like just get the Crayola crayon box and just
Yeah.
color it in.
Do you
That's
know
my
the
favorite color.
code? Do you know the code of the color?
Um, no, just Google it. Like Google search Google image search Crayola cerulean crayon, and that's the shade. Because there's like other
Right.
like off shades of
Yeah.
cerulean. That's not
Not the same.
it. It's the Crayola crayon. I'm very specific. But yeah,
Right.
that's about that. That's who I am. That's what
Yeah,
I'm about.
but that wraps it up. Thank you for being the show. It's been amazing.
Truly.
No, man. Okay, so a bit of an introduction, just like kind of like why I approach you and everything. I've been watching your. I just told you this, but like I've been watching your videos for years since you started, and yeah, man, you've been an inspiration to me. And right now, you said you're 25. I had no idea. I thought you were older than me. I mean, not way, but like I'm 23. I always
Nice.
saw
Yeah.
you as the older role model.
I also feel like a lot of the people that come from like Instagram and YouTube are like usually a little younger, like
Yeah,
20. They're either like, they're not really my age. I feel like they're younger or older. They're like
right.
30s, like around Casey Neistat is, or
Hmm.
like 19 or 20, where they're like, whoa, you're really young. Like what the heck? Like
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like it's a kind of I'm kind of mid outlier range.
Yeah, let's go. But yeah, okay, a bit of background. So, what do you do? What are you passionate about? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so currently I just recently started working for a company, Moment, doing filmmaking for them. They used to, and I guess they still make iPhone lenses, and they're a great
Mhm.
company. And then prior to that, I was doing freelance for 5 years, and then yeah, just doing photo and video work. And in the midst of that, I did YouTube vlogs as well. And now, I mean, I still do all that pretty much. It's like kind of not like necessarily as much work, but excuse me, not as much work, but or not as much like job stuff because I
Mhm.
work a full time job now,
Yeah.
but more so the just for fun now. It's been fun to like have it all back as my own and just like be photographing for fun again. So
Right.
yeah, that's kind of what I
Nice.
do.
That's awesome. So, like people that listen to the podcast and stuff, we've been talking a lot about Stoicism, like the ways it really
Yeah,
impacts our lives. And what I'm really interested in is kind of like combining creativity and philosophy, right? And how they both work together. And yeah, like for me, I studied filmmaking, I studied some photography. I was doing quite a bit of photography a few years ago, but then I kind of stopped a little bit. But still,
hmm,
like I don't know, there's something about art, and there's something about like the creative process that I think is very related to philosophy. I mean, before we dig really deep into Stoicism, and
yeah,
like a bit of more of that, like I would just want to know your thoughts about the link of creativity and philosophy.
yeah. Uh, I think it's very applicable for sure. I think it's helped me a lot to I think my best link with philosophy is to understand like what's truly intrinsic to me, like what are my values and how I can capture that through my work. I think it's easy, especially with social media, to get off track, to
Yeah.
to appeal to others, to like do all this stuff. And like I'm definitely at fault. I think everyone's at fault to an extent with that. And stoicism, I feel, has really like reeled me back into, okay, like what am I actually truly stoked about? What am I truly what is like truly internally me, and how can I capture that? So for me, it's like outdoors, and being true and honest with myself, and being just self-aware of like, this is the most fulfilling part for me, is to be outside and to capture that somehow, and going from there with that. So that's how creativity and stoicism has really worked in my life.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, oh, that's cool. I mean, and yeah, just for a bit of context for people who haven't seen your YouTube channel or they don't know you
yeah.
yet, yeah, man. I mean, it was cool. Like I was telling you earlier, like I used to watch your videos like since Vogue One, and it's been super awesome. And now lately I saw this update that you posted, kind of like, like sometimes adversity comes in our lives. Like honestly, I'm in a bit of in the middle of that. Like every time
Yeah.
I update a podcast, it's always as if I'm in the middle of that. But it's just constant, man. Like there's always something going on, and I just want to know a bit of like your background, like getting into Stoicism, maybe what triggered it,
Yeah.
as much as you feel
Sure.
comfortable with sharing. Like no worries. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm happy to share. So I didn't really know what stoicism was. I knew what like self-help was prior, and like
Yeah.
self-help was cool. Like I don't think anything's wrong with it, but sometimes it's a lot of I found it not to be so practical sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but sometimes. And some of it was also a bit too out there for me. Like I'm a very practical like level dude. Like I drive a Prius, like it's just like I'm a very, very practical dude. And yeah, so I think the first book, Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So I had heard from a friend of mine, Alex Stroll, another photographer.
Hmm.
I was listening to a podcast he was on, and he said he was reading the book "Ego is the Enemy" um, at the time, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like I'll check it out." And the podcast was recorded like years earlier, and this was like earlier this summer when I just like had re-listened to it, and I was like, "Oh, I should read that," because I'd been getting into reading a ton like prior to this. Like I'd just been reading book after book, and so to continue the train, I was reading "Ego is the Enemy," and yeah, to put it in a nutshell, like that time of my like earlier this summer in April, I was like doing road life. I was um I was doing road life, and in the midst of that, I was questioning if I was really enjoying road life and not
Yeah.
being fully honest with myself. And then I had like a lot of business inquiry stuff, like when you get like 10 plus inquiries, it's like, oh, one will work out, one didn't work out. And then in the midst of that, I also had girl problems basically. So,
Yeah.
and like all of this was happening at once. And like, um, I'm not going to go too in depth with it, but it like all
Hmm.
hit heavy in the midst of reading "Ego is the Enemy." Um, just questioning. I think the biggest thing was like I was doing the road life thing, doing all that, and I just started like questioning, like, what am I actually doing? Like, is
Yeah.
this like, am I doing road life because I enjoy it, or because I'm trying to project this image of me? Like, but then am I even enjoying this image of me? Like, am I enjoying what I'm trying to project, or am I just like out here just trying to like make it
Yeah.
by doing this? Like, it was just like all like it literally makes as much sense to me as it does as me trying to explain it to you. Like, it just didn't make
Right.
sense. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? And blah blah blah, girl troubles. I moved back to Washington to May to like actually be here for the first time in a long time. And I just was like living with family. Um,
Hmm.
so I guess I was listening to "Ego is the Enemy" on audiobook, and then reading "The Power of Now" by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
Um, and those books in tandem, and I always have a fun book going on too. So I was reading those, listening to two like practical wisdom Stoic books, and then I was reading like random books like The Hobbit, and then like The Hunger
Yeah.
Games, Harry
Right.
Potter. Like I always have a fun book going on too. And yeah, so that was like I got Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday as well, and
Right.
started
Right.
doing those, and like yeah, like that this like past summer really was my introduction slash solidifying how much I loved Stoicism, because it's just so practical. Like there's no like, and I don't want to hate on anything, but there's no religion attached. There's no this or that
I
attached to it. It's
agree.
just like you can't read the book and be like, I don't know about that. Like it's true. Like if you and that's what it was. Like it was just something I couldn't argue, and it's so simple. Like, and that's like I'm the kind of guy that if there's too much food in the fridge, I eat out. And like
Right.
when if that makes sense, like
Yeah.
I just get overloaded with info and I can't handle it. And like long emails, like I just can't do it. There's too much food in the fridge. And
Right.
so with Stoicism, it's just simple. Like the daily Stoic, it's, maybe a page worth of text every day with
Right.
practical wisdom. And then I got the little question book as well,
Mhm.
the journal that came
Yeah.
with it. And it's just like starting every morning like that this past summer, just like dialing in, like just being very mindful. Yeah, it was great. And so that was my intro to it. And like really I've dedicated a lot of my time these past 6 months since May to
Mhm.
it. Like I've been practicing it a ton, in like meditation as well as journaling. Like if I like
Definitely.
anyone listening to this podcast, I encourage you to journal. Like, oh my God, it's the best lesson on perspective ever. It
It
is
is.
so, so good. And I try to journal every day. And it's just like you can, when you like talk to your friends and you listen to their problem, and it's like you like know the answer. You're like, stop being so stupid. Like
Right.
that's what
Exactly.
journaling is. It's like you're looking at your own problems from an outside perspective now instead of inward. And something about that is like it just makes you realize like how unimportant things are, and like how in a good way, like how
Yeah.
not big deal things are, and like how much like things just go on. And so like every morning, like um so I guess, but to back up, like that was kind of like my intro to Stoicism, and
Right. Right.
that's been my practices. And um yeah, and like with now I'm working at Moment, like it's a busy job. Like it takes a lot of my mental energy and time. So lately my journey with Stoicism is not having an excuse to be too busy for it, because it's
Yeah.
easy for me to like workaholic my way through it, but through the day. But I'm trying to like back up and like every morning like spend 32 an hour just sorry, I heard a loud noise outside.
Don't worry.
Anyways, sorry.
Yeah. Don't worry, man.
I don't know what that was. Keep
Damn. Do you
comparing.
want to check? We can pause. Don't worry.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'll just start from here. So with it being really busy with work and stuff, I try to like spend 32 an hour every morning
Yeah.
just journaling, writing about. Lately, it's been a big thing, writing about perspectives. There's this
Mhm.
really really good quote from a book called Seven Habits of Highly Successful People
Yeah.
by Stephen R. Covey, and it's examine your own motivations
Mhm.
against your highest values, because they impact your perception, and which impacts your behavior and the results that follow. And I pretty much write that in my journal every day. And like, I'll think about whatever I'm doing, like my motivation for like something in my personal life or something in my business life. And I'm like, okay, well, like, what does what I'm going toward line up with my values? And if it's like no, and it's like, okay, well, how's that? If it's no or yes, I'm like, okay, well,
Mhm.
how's that impacting my perception of the situation? And what will the results be? Um, and my behavior and my reaction to it be. So
Right.
it's been like that quote is probably one of the best quotes I've ever heard, because you can apply it to everything. And I pretty much write that every morning in my journal. So that's kind of like my intro plus my
Yeah.
intro to Stoicism and philosophy, as well as kind of my current practice. But
Right.
yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Damn, man. No, that's so cool. I love it because I mean, I can definitely see how you're getting fired up about like getting started. Like, not to say that I'm too like far in advance of that. Like, I started this thing like 2 years ago, but like
Hmm.
same like the first few months I was crazy. I was just talking a lot about it. I was obsessed with it. It's just such like you said, it's just the truth. It's just right there,
You
and
can't argue it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Like
even if you could, you would probably just be saying the same things in other words,
yeah.
because I mean that's what I love about it. Like it really, Stoicism really, like you said, it doesn't come with the weight of a religion or a political
Hmm.
movement. It really is just thinkers expressing their thoughts on life and
Yeah.
the reality of it and the practicality, right?
And the one thing I do really love, especially Ryan Holiday does this,
Yeah.
is like, I mean, he admits he's agnostic, he doesn't follow a religion,
Hmm.
But like he literally just posted a photo showing the books he read on tour, and one of them was like the Holy Bible, you know, and like, and
Yeah.
he draws from all these other religious texts, and it's like I grew up in the church, and so like I kind of have a different perspective on that,
Hmm.
and to be able to just accept knowledge for what it is versus a religion attached to it, I think is really cool. And I think one of my favorite passages from The Power of Now, um, which I thought was just really cool that he included it, Eckhart.
Hmm.
It was just like this passage about like, does God help you or hinder you? Whatever that is, let's just keep going. And it's just like, oh, like okay, it's
Yeah.
that simple. Like that's not much food in the fridge you have to deal with. Like it's just
Right.
like it's just so simple. And yeah, that's what I appreciate about Stoicism is it is, yeah, just practical work with no religion attached. So
Yeah, man. No, I agree. Like, it's hard because we are always told, like, I don't know, either society, there's a lot of forces telling us how to think about life, how to go about life. Something that I'm interested in knowing your opinion in general is kind of like, you kind of took this path of being a creator online, showing your photography, your work. Do you think there was a lot of, I don't know, convention in there, kind of like something external telling you how to be, who you should be, that kind of stuff, or were you always able to feel authentic to yourself?
yeah, I think at the start, I was
Mhm.
very authentic to myself. And this kind of comes back to like what I've really just discovered or like rediscovered this summer is like when it started out, like I mean, to put it simply, like, um, it started out so innocent, and it just started out like basically my goal was to make enough money to not second have a second thought about going out to eat with my friends and
Mhm.
being able to like buy a beer with it. Like that was kind of like my goal,
Yeah.
like originally, and I just had the idea of doing weddings and like just like making it like that, and just cruising and hanging with my friends from there. And then like um yeah, and then success like came quick and also
Mhm.
just really shifted my mindset with it. And I was actually talking to my manager last night about it, and like just like reflecting a lot with him lately. And I think a big part of it was it changed a lot of things there. And to bring it back to the idea of stoicism is it like I kind of was not true to myself. I was not very self-aware of what I was doing. And with social media, it's just like this, it's like a
Yeah.
big ego fest sometimes. And that's kind of
Yeah.
where I was heading. And it's just like, um, I just kind of trying to build this image that like wasn't actually real. You know, if that like, I mean, that's a whole thing we could dive into, but like, but like, it was just this image of myself online that I wasn't really like stoked on. I like to be the successful photographer, you know,
Mhm.
but like, I wasn't spending my time outside because that's what it started with. Like, I was just hiking, I was just going outside, like enjoying. I was climbing a ton, and like I just like never I wasn't doing that. I was focused on the emails, the editing I had to do, the next big job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got a reminder on my phone from the Calm app saying mindfulness reminder.
Come down,
how
Andrew.
how fitting.
Yeah.
Um but so yeah, it was just like so that's where stoicism brought me to this summer. It was
Yeah.
like it I guess the best way to put it, like after that whole like shebang of all that stuff happening, it put me in a place where I could look beyond ego, look beyond that like sheet I was holding up, and like actually see what was going on. And it also offered a place of extreme vulnerability with myself to where I'm like, okay, this sucks about me. This is cool about me. Like, what am I
Yeah.
actually doing? And then it brought me back to like what I like, what's truly like to say assembly, like I was right the first time, like just enjoying the outdoors, just being outside. And because that's what it started out with. And then success, myself, society, like all of that got in the way of just something that wasn't actually intrinsic to me.
Right.
Um, so like bringing that full circle, it's like stoicism I mean, I said it earlier, has really
Mhm.
brought me back to what's intrinsic. And in that, like I said, I was climbing a ton back in like 2014 and 15, and now I'm doing that again because I'm not chasing after this thing that's not actually me. And um, a big part of one of my friends put it perfectly, that Instagram and social media, like when you go meet people, it's like this cool community, but at the end of the day, it's essentially just like a bunch of friendships. Like it's just like a bunch of one night stand friendships. Like you kind of just see people and then you leave. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of, you might see them for a week and then you see them like a year and a half later, or you see them for a few days and then maybe you see them a few months later, or a few years later. Like it's not very consistent. And I, when I was like honest with myself, I was like, yo, I want like consistent friends. Like that's so lame to just be building this online image to impress all these people that are following you. And it's just
Yeah.
like, I mean, it sounds as lame as it is. Like, and I was just like, what the hell am I doing? Um, and so in that, yeah, it brought me back to Everett, to Washington.
Mhm.
And I've been living here for 6 months with some friends now. I'm cat sitting for my parents right now while they're away.
Right.
That might be the loud noise. um, but yeah, and so it brought me back to here, and I've been climbing a ton again. I've been outside a decent amount. I want to be outside more, but
Mhm.
been getting back outdoors, hiking, and then like with climbing and stuff, I like have found that consistent community of friends, like, and that community of people where we hang out and like do brunches. We all got Mexican food last night. We're all going on a climbing trip to Bend later. We've been to like climbing trips around here too, and it's just like that's so much more fulfilling than a number next to my name or a big paycheck. And it's like that's what truly matters. And like success is success is just like funny like that, because it's just like you hear societal success and it's
Yeah.
like money, girls, cars, whatever, and it's just like no, like I just want to go like climb rocks with my friends, like
Right.
like and just like enjoy their time, have dinner and lunch with them, and just like just do life with good people. And like when you realize that success, it's just like life gets a lot easier. Like when I was not focusing on that, there was again like too much food in the fridge. My mind was in so many other places, focused on so many things that didn't actually matter, when it's like what I really wanted was just like right there, like
Right.
behind the milk. It was just like it
Right
was
by the
there.
milk.
I always use that. I love the food in the fridge
It's good.
analogy.
It's
Like
good.
yeah, yeah. When I
Damn.
moved back here,
Mhm.
I was just with my parents for a few months, and their refrigerator broke upstairs, so they used
Yeah.
my refrigerator
Okay.
downstairs. They like moved all the food in there to there. And so prior to this, I was really good about meal prepping and like not eating out, and I was just like I was very like dialed.
Uh-huh.
And then like all of a sudden they moved too much food in my fridge, and they like and I started like eating out, like, and I started like my habits completely I would like be like, oh my god, what do I make? And I would just like get the chips, like, and just like I was
Right.
like I stopped making food because there was too much information, too much bullshit that I had to
Wow.
look at, and it like overwhelmed me. And I was like, it's like such a good analogy for life, like too much food
Ah,
in the
it's good,
fridge, because
man.
it's like I don't operate when there's too much detail. Like I like, yeah, I like less food in the fridge. Like I like less choice.
Yeah.
Um,
There's too
yeah.
much
So,
choice, man. Like this whole world of the internet like has it's paradox
dude,
of choice, right? Like there's too much and there's a lot of life paths that people say that they can help you get wherever you want to go.
dude.
And it's not always fake promises. Like I do believe people do have the tools to either make you, like go down this rabbit if you want to be a professional photographer, filmmaker, like I get you,
Yeah.
but it's crazy. Like for you, is photography something still dear in your heart, or is that
Oh
something
yeah.
that, yeah?
Yeah, and that's like the interesting thing with like working at Moment now. Like I said, it's a really busy job, and my
Hmm.
job there is filmmaking. So I'm filming a lot and editing more, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much my job there. And
Okay.
um, now like right now it's just super busy with holidays. So like once it slows down, like hopefully I'll have more time to like actually practice photography, because now it's cool that photography is my own again. To not rely on a paycheck from it, to to not rely on like freelance work or a paycheck from it, to be able to just go and shoot. Like I haven't been shooting much, but the times I've been shooting, I've really enjoyed it. It's like when I go climbing with my friends, like I'm shooting film. Like I don't have to bring I don't have to worry about what camera I'm going to bring. Like I can just shoot for film with my friends on a little $100 film camera and just enjoy the time with them, have fun creating those photos. And that's really cool for me. It's definitely like a different mind shift. But it's really cool to have it be my own 100% again. Like I do still want to do photo work, but I want to like spend time. One thing I really learned this summer is not to like have an idea and rush into it real quick. Like dwell on it, take your time, and see what ideas and feelings about stuff keep coming up consistently. And so I want to like really sit and dwell and define, okay, like if I'm going to move back into photo work, I know I want to do that, but how do I move in that and sustain it and not burn out too much and keep my focus on the right thing?
Yeah. Right. So like, was it for you, like, what kind of drained you like through those years previous, like to where you are now with a bit more clarity? Was it really like doing things for others and the YouTube thing? Like, is it that what drained you, or was it something else?
I'd say yeah. Like when you put out, like especially when I did dailies, vlogs and stuff for a time, and this is all kind of like a psychology kind of thing, or like a mind thing, where it's just like you'll do dailies and then like all of a sudden you expect that people expect you to do dailies, and like I couldn't keep up with that because like at the end of the day I'm a photographer, I'm not a vlogger. And when that expectancy settles in, those anxieties set in, and like the pressure to perform and all of this stuff, and like that just kind of loaded up over the years, and it's just like it leads me to May 2019 of just like all this buildup, all this pressure that doesn't actually exist. I've just built it up in my own mind, and like I don't need to perform for XYZ. Like I just need to like do my thing. Like I think one of the things I talked about to my manager last night was like, hey, if we were to do this again, like I want to really talk about like what it would look like. And I think a big focus is like I was worrying too much about the business crap, like worrying too much about the business stuff and like being in emails and all that stuff. And I wasn't actually focusing on what my job title was, which was a photographer. Like I was a professional emailer and professional editor. Like I wasn't out shooting, which is like, that doesn't classify me as a photographer, and yeah, it's just like an honest observation of just like, okay, well, yeah. Have you ever heard of Renan Ozturk?
No.
He's a filmmaker. There's a really good film. Have you heard of Alex Honnold, guy who did Free Solo?
No, sorry.
Okay, so no, you're good. You're good. It was a film recently. Basically, Renan works at Camp 4 Collective, which is a big filmmaking group that did Free Solo. Alex Honnold is the guy who did. It's like an Oscar-winning film that came. It's a climbing film.
Okay.
But there's this really good video of both of them, separate project they did where they went to this trip in the Alaska range and they were climbing and all this stuff. And Alex is like just a very interesting dude. Like every decision he's made has so much intention toward the same goal of his climbing career. Whereas Renan is like me. It's just like he really enjoys the idea of creating and all this stuff. And he's really freaking good. And he also like has much, like, I mean, in the terms of success, commercial wise, has great successes, like well beyond what I've done. But there's like these honest moments in this film of him being like, because he started off as like a filmmaker for climbing, and he's got into all this other stuff that's really good work. Like, but it's really cool to hear his honesty through that and be like, oh, like even he goes through all this stuff. Like even he goes through, it started off doing climbing and he's still outdoors in third world countries doing amazing work. But it's like, what happened? What where did like that first love kind of go? And so like bringing it back to
Yeah.
that now is just like finding where that first love was, climbing and being outside and all that. So
That's
yeah.
crazy, man. No, I mean, I love what you're saying because I think we are constantly sold on the idea of if you live like the lifestyle that you are living, right? Like traveling around the world and doing your passion like that, we see that and we assume that okay, everything must be all set once you achieve that level, and it's crazy, you know. Like I think
No,
you probably just gave some people an existential crisis because there's a lot of
dude,
people
yeah.
who might be
But
searching
that's
this type
like,
of lifestyle.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like that was me in May, like existential crisis, like quarter
Yeah,
life crisis. I was just
yeah,
like, what the hell am I doing? Like, and
yeah.
like, but because I didn't,
Don't worry,
someone's at
we'll
the
cut it.
door.
We'll cut
Yeah.
it. We have a special guest. No, not just
Yeah.
different.
Hey.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do it now. Okay, we had a bit of an interruption, real quick. Carry
Yeah.
on.
People had to fix my parents' shower. I'm cat sitting for them there in
Yeah,
New York, so minor interruptions.
carry
But
on.
no worries. The yeah, and so having that existential crisis, the quarter life crisis as I call it for me, like it
Mhm.
was so good because I'm the kind of person that like dwells too much, which is like a flaw. But like it's like a blessing and a curse. But I
Yeah,
like dwelled a lot on it. And I was just like very I was like really examining. I mean, that goes back to that quote, like examine your own motivations against your highest values, impacts your perception, what impacts your behavior and the results that follow. Like that's what I was doing 24/7. It's just
yeah,
like examining my motives and like all this stuff. And like having that existential crisis was like so good. I think it's so important for everyone to have that because you either realize you're being honest with yourself and you're not. Like it's so insane how unhonest with ourselves we are. Like to be self-aware is like the most important thing, and I think a lot of people lack that. And
yeah.
yeah, so if you are sitting here having a panic attack right now, that's probably a good indication that you should be thinking about some things.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's good. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. You know, like I was listening to this book that I love. It's called Awareness, and this guy is talking about how he's very conflicted because he's kind of like maybe more spiritual kind of guy, not necessarily religious, but he's talking about the importance of awareness and really knowing ourselves and seeing ourselves from a third person point of view almost. And he says
Yeah.
he was also a psychologist. So he said he had this conflict because he thought that psychologists relieve the pain sometimes, right? Or there's this type of therapies, or even like you know, like someone who gives you some advice that makes you feel good, and it's crazy because that is a bit of relief. Whereas sometimes you do need to go through the suffering because there's something at the other side that will only be
Yeah.
discovered through the suffering. And this is not to say, you know, like it's always good to say these disclaimers. Like if someone is really struggling with something, it's important to go see a professional on
Sure.
this stuff. But those of us who suffer a lot about, I don't know, all types of things is not always a bad thing.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
there's like a good quote that's just simple, and it's a smooth sea never made a good captain. A
Hmm.
smooth cap yeah, something
Yeah, I get you.
something like that. A smooth sea never made a good sailor or something
Yeah,
like
that
that.
makes
And
sense.
like it's true. Like you have
Yeah.
to, like you need to go through all that, the really crappy seas to
Yeah.
really be good at navigating life. And like as wow, the sun's coming out now, man. All these all these changes.
Changes, man.
And it's really good to um like now that I've gone through this like rough season of life, and like now life's like moving, like it's good, like it's in a good spot. Like I know there will inevitably be other rough seasons of life, and but I'm a better captain now. Like I know how to manage that and how to work through that. So it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just teaches you a lot about yourself and a lot of introspection, and that's where that part of journaling comes back in. Like you kind of just touch on that idea again about the psychologist, is like you yeah, like you're able to look at your problems from an outside perspective, like a third person perspective.
Exactly.
And that is the best skill sets to have, one of the best things you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, man. I don't know. Like, I want to know your opinion on people who do want to pursue their passion, and maybe people who do want to use creativity as a way to express themselves. Is I don't know everything you went through, like regarding like YouTube creations and everything you went through. Is it something that you do recommend to people? Do you think it can be done right? I really want to know your opinion on that.
Sure. I think it can be done right. I think you just have to be mindful of and very self-aware of like who you're doing it for.
Hmm.
Um, it's just like, sorry, I'm like so many like sounds going on. I'm trying to find a good spot. Um, like basically, I think it's you just have to be doing it like true to you. Like that's the most
Yeah.
important thing. I was listening to a podcast last night. Have you ever listened to Finding Mastery? I think is what it's called.
No, I haven't.
It's this sports psychologist, and he hangs out with just like next level, like top of the line athletes, pretty much. And so one of the things he was interviewing Mick Fanning, who was a surfer, and Mick Fanning's like won several world titles, like all this stuff, like really amazing surfer, retired last year. But Mick was just talking about like he asked the question, have you like when you were up there on the podium, like or like when you were competing, were you aiming for the podium? He's like, well, I thought I could make the podium most times, but at the end of the day, like I was just trying to compete with myself. He's like, the
Yeah.
first time I competed for the worlds, it was like I finished fifth, then I finished fourth and third, and then second, and I was like, okay, well, if I'm going at this pace, I can probably get to one. And he's not thinking like, oh, if I can keep this up, I'm gonna beat Kelly Slater. Oh, if I can keep this up, I'm gonna like win over my opponent. He's thinking about like, oh, like if I can be better than myself last year, that's all that matters. And then
Yeah.
he won the next year. He was in first place. And like it's like such a hard perspective to
Yeah.
keep, and such a um hard to keep in mind. But if you can keep that in mind, like that's what I'm trying to do with climbing. Like, I'm climbing at a certain level, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like all these guys around me are like, climbing above my level, but I don't care. Like I want to be better like than I was last month. So let's go from there.
Nice.
I think that's the most important thing, is just to focus on where you're at, and compete healthily with yourself.
That's great.
And so applying that to your question of just being like, with social media and all of that, I think there's a very healthy way to go about it. And like I said, I think one of my faults was I just got busy with all the food in the fridge. I was focusing on too many other things that didn't actually matter, and what I really wanted was just like right there. And so focusing on what's true to you is the most important thing. And if you're not focusing on it, it's gonna get snuffed out by others. Like if you're trying to put on some facade or this or that, like it's gonna get snuffed out. Like you can, number one, like you're gonna like low key kind of hate life, and then number
Yeah.
two, like others will pick up on the fakeness of it. So there's really, I mean, like punching in the numbers, doing the math, there's really no reason to do something um, other than what's true to you. And yeah, it is, again, examine your own motivations against your highest values, blah, blah, blah. Like
Yeah.
you can apply that quote to it again, like the best quote. So,
Love it, man.
um, yeah, to answer your question, I guess that's the roundabout answer.
All right, another little interruption, but we're just testing our
Dude,
ability to deal with adversity.
welcome to my life. It's just like everything's just so scrappy. Like I'm trying to rig it right now to stand my phone up with a hard drive, a journal, and some headphones. I'll send you a picture of it. It's a pretty good little rig. It worked.
Awesome, man. But yeah, no. So you said like it's kind of like this idea of being always honest to yourself and trying to find a way that works for you.
Yeah,
What would you advise to people like maybe people who don't know whether it's the route that they want to go to is maybe like a freelance route where they can apply, kind of like being self-employed is a dream of a lot of us of wanting to be self-sustained and fully like, like depend on ourselves versus now that you say you have a job. What are the differences? How have they impacted your life?
sure. Well, I'll start with the advice first.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to look ahead and ask why you're doing it. Um, like I said at the beginning, it was about being outside and like, doing my own schedule and all this stuff. And I achieved that. And then it just, all the busyness and all that got in the way. And that's where I went wrong. Like where I just was focusing on too many other things that weren't actually that important to me. So as you contemplate doing freelance, or as you contemplate doing whatever, like have a set goal, or like have a direction, have a goal in mind, because you can't score without a goal. If you don't have tracks, you're going to wander off. Like have a mission statement and an idea of what you want to be doing. That's really true and intrinsic to you. Like, being outside, climbing. That's what I want to be doing. That's what I want to be shooting and photographing, is just like outside. And that's pretty dialed. It's a pretty dialed, very simple explanation of what I want to be doing. So find that for yourself,
Right.
And then, the second part of that, you asked about the difference between freelance and having a steady job. And, I'm still settling into the steady job. The steadiness is very nice. I won't lie. It is really, really nice to have, but I also won't lie in the fact that I really miss my schedule, my own schedule, like where I can just do whatever I want when I wanted. Like I have to think like, okay, tomorrow we'll be filming all day. Like it's not my day. It's like the company's day, and it's still relatively remote. Like for the most part, it's pretty free, but like I have to like it's like a decent sized company. And to be honest, there's a lot of food in their fridge. Like it's just like, it's really overwhelming with what's going on. And it's been a good learning curve. It's a big learning curve. It's steep. There's a lot of information to learn, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it is a really cool opportunity to have steadiness. And I'm still really fresh into it, so it's hard to give a good perspective of it. But I think the biggest takeaway so far is like, it's nice to have someone give you a to-do list versus like come up with your own as a freelancer, but also like it might not be the to-do list you want. So like being able to just like suck it up and just do the work. Like, I think that's a really good lesson for me lately, is just to like do it and not complain. Like, even though it might be something I don't want to do, like suck it up. Like, you're getting paid to do it. And yeah, like it's a good lesson on perspective. Journaling has very centered me a lot in this time of realizing, okay, I'm not 100% in charge of my schedule or my life as much anymore. But it's also been a really good, it's been a really good lesson on perspective lately. Like, I don't know how much I can go into that, because it's just like, I don't want to talk about. Yeah, we won't talk about that. But
that's good.
It's just like observations I've made, but it's also provided a lot of honesty in myself of like, okay, what are my, like, again, revisiting my values and stuff like that. It's like, I have a lot more headspace to like think too. I don't have to be worrying about the next paycheck or the next job. Like, I know in 2 weeks I'm gonna get paid X amount, and that's pretty nice when you don't have that as a freelancer. You'll make good money 1 year and a fourth that the next as a freelancer. Right. So it's just like the steadiness is really great to have. So yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, what I take away from that is that it doesn't, like, there's this quote, like, the good life can be lived under any circumstances, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the idea that you don't necessarily have to follow an external path of how things should be in your life in order for you to be in the moment and enjoy life as it is. I think that's what I'm taking from this, because I mean, I'm definitely sold on the idea of like being self-employed is a dream. Like that is kind of still my dream. I've been dwelling a lot about it because of all these worries that you talk about. But if anything, this is a good reminder of, it doesn't really matter what the external circumstances are. You can definitely find peace and calm in whatever state you are in life.
And no, and that's really well said. I think I haven't really touched on that too much, but that's a huge lesson I learned, especially like The Power of Now. Like, that book was so powerful for me. Like, when I read that in tandem with listening to Ego is the Enemy, like that combination is insane, because it just takes you, like, I mean, ego is anything but accepting what's real right now. And then the power of now is literally about accepting what's real right now. And it's just like,
Yeah.
it's fascinating, like reading those two books together, because it taught me a lot about, um, like, yeah, just being present, like actually, I like being where I'm at, being with the person I'm with, being in the conversation, breathing in the air, like doing like sensation, like appreciating the sensations that come with life. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like, and there's very, and I thought about this, like at the time where as the years of when I was not that my head wasn't in the right place, but I was just like focusing on the wrong stuff, not like what I truly wanted to be focusing on. Like there's
Yeah.
very few times where I like think back to it and remember like, oh, I remember that moment. And it was so present. Like I was so there.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest, most impactful moments, I remember I was hiking the enchantments in Washington, and it was sunset. We were up like 8,000 feet with some mountain, like this crazy like peak to our left and all this stuff. I was like taking some photos of my friend, and I was just like, man, this is crazy. And I just like set my camera down for the first time in ages. Like I wasn't focused on taking a photo. I was just fully focused on like there. And I remember so many details of that moment. Like I remember where my friend was standing. I remember the three peaks in front of me. I remember the valley below me. And it's just like, I thought so much about that when I was reading those books, and how much I lacked that. And then now it's different, like especially with climbing. Like I think that's a really good way to bring you into the now, because it's just like you're focusing on every little move. And the climbing and like that kind of stuff has such opportunity to practice mindfulness, because you can climb like like grades way below what you're doing, and just like think about and be very present with the next hold you grab. And like that's so much fun just to cruise on like low, like it's just like mindfulness exercises. Like it sounds so lame sometimes, like, oh, like think about how you cook your eggs and flip them, like but it's just like it's kind of fun, just like bring you right in at the now. And you can be on autopilot so much, and it's just, that's just not a way to live life. And like you said, like it's the now, and the appreciation of the moment is accessible, and happiness is accessible at any time. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways from the summer from reading those books. And yeah, I hope that section made sense, but okay.
It's crazy, man. Like this thing, like it's constant. Like we're always looking for the next thing. It doesn't matter what problem is going on right now. It's always about solving it so that soon we'll be okay, and everything will be okay soon. But then that moment never comes. But happiness keeps being postponed.
Yeah, and I mean, think about it. Like if you keep saying, okay, the next moment will be okay, the next moment will be okay. Like when I get like this car is fine, when I get a better one, it's fine. Okay, you got the new car. Okay, like this house is okay, but when I get a bigger house, it'll be fine. And like blah blah blah. Like years later, you're in your big house by yourself with your new car, and then it's just like, what happened? Like that's like that perspective for me was crazy. To like just think about. It's just like, okay, well, if I'm only looking ahead to what's next, like what, like I'm always going to be doing this, And so like taking myself out of that and being like, okay, well, like what's now? Like what's not what's next, what is now? And just like enjoying it for what it is. Like, yeah, I've really been trying to just not complain about anything, and being mindful of not, because what difference is it going to make? Like, like, oh, this job is so busy, like what's going to change? Like, like that, like me ranting or any of that, like, or like this client sucks. Like, okay, cool. Like nothing's going to happen. So just like not complaining and just accepting it for what it is, and viewing stuff with indifference and moving forward. Like, I think that is like the best way to achieve now. And, yeah.
Wow, man. No, it's crazy. I love it. Thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy, man. Like, and regarding your priorities in life, I mean, priorities as a concept, right? Like, I was seeing this idea of, you have like, say, I mean, it could be with a few things, but like the burner in the kitchen, like the thing that you used to, I don't know, is it
Yeah.
burner? Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So like you have a certain amount of gas, and you can only light fully like two or three at the time, and you have four. This is the whole concept, right? And one is family, one is friends, the other one is
Mm.
work, and the other one is health. And the concept is if you really want to excel at one of these in life, you have to turn off two. And if you want to keep everything super
Yeah.
balanced, you can have all four like at low, but you will never excel at anything. What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
I've heard that before. And
Yeah.
back then, so it was friends, family, health, and
Health
work.
and yep.
Okay. Yeah, back when I first heard that, like I was really focused on work,
Yeah.
and I was like really fine with the idea. Like I remember this quote vividly actually. And I was really fine with just focusing on work and health. Like
Yeah.
as messed up as that sounds.
Yeah.
I mean that's literally ego right there, like
Yeah.
speaking. Like and now, but then like I mean, if you focus on those two things, like I mean, congrats, like you found success in that, and now you're in your house alone, like like I
Yeah.
mean, like it is just like it's like what's it going to do for you at the end of the day, like I my perception of time and money has been altered significantly in the past few months.
Yeah.
And understanding like I've had really good years of freelance. In fact, my best freelance year was my
Mhm.
worst personal year. And
Really? No way.
yeah, and then my I don't think it was my worst freelance year, but one of my lower freelance years was filled with a lot of personal growth.
That's
And the
crazy.
freelance year I remember the most is my very first year. Is like, I only made uh like double my Starbucks. I was working at Starbucks prior, and I just
Hmm.
made double my salary, which at the time I was like gassed on. Like I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like I'm actually doing it. Like it's actually
Yeah.
working out. But in retrospect, it wasn't that much compared to other freelance years.
Right.
And but that was my favorite year because I was just gunning. Like I was enjoying it for what it was. I was loving the process. And yeah, and that's truly what it is. Like if you have to enjoy the process of stuff, and if you're going to be successful, you have to enjoy the process. And
Yeah.
I think going back to that quote, like finding success in work, finding success in health, I think that's important, but I'd rather have the full balance at this point, like friends,
Yeah.
family, health, work, because like I don't want to be in my big house alone by myself. Like it doesn't matter unless it's filled with like people that you appreciate, and like the real homies, and doing lunch with your friends on Thursday nights and stuff like that. So it's just like it's to each their own, but that's what truly matters to me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like my understanding of money is a lot different now, and success has been very much redefined in that
Yeah.
perspective, if that
No,
makes
that
sense.
that is
Yeah.
super valuable. I think it's this
Yeah,
idea of seasons, right? Like at some point in life, you prioritize something, and then something else, maybe, and then at some point in life, you really want to have the balance of all of those. And I
for
think,
sure.
yeah, the trick is to just be honest with yourself. Be like, honestly, what do you value right now? Because it
Yeah,
doesn't mean it's wrong if you want to have like one on full power and the other one's turned off. Like if that's what you want to do right now, be honest with yourself, and just if
yeah,
that fills you with joy, it's okay. Like there's no judgment, rather only your own.
yeah. And it's, again, going back to that quote, like examine your own motivations against your highest values, blah blah blah. Like that is so applicable when you are shifting your focus. Just like
Yeah.
because like when if you like for instance you're kind of putting the other three on hold, and you're focusing 110% on the work. It's like, okay, well, like make sure that work is worthwhile, make sure what you're doing is actually like intrinsic to you and actually matters toward your highest values. Because yeah, I don't need to
Yeah.
go into explaining that, but like it makes a lot of sense. Like
Right.
just examine it as you shift those focuses. And I agree. I think what you said is really accurate. Is like it's seasons.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. And is there something like about that whole stage, like maybe when you were fully dedicated in work, is there something about that you regret that you wish you would have spent differently, or is it something that you learned from? I don't know.
I wish I would have focused more on what I enjoyed. Like I focused a lot on
Yeah.
business stuff.
Hmm.
I focused a lot on that, like the business side and all that of photography, and like the personality side when like
Yeah.
with YouTube and everything, like it kind of became something it shouldn't have. And then I wish I would have also done more activities that I enjoyed, like climbing.
Yeah.
Like I being back into climbing, like it is so much fun. Like it's so healthy for me to be in that state and be just enjoy it for what it is. I think that would have helped sustain and brought me back to um
Don't
I
worry.
think it would have yeah, I think it would have, if I had kept that in mind as I went along, I think that would have helped sustain the I don't want to say sustain the career. I feel like that's wrong, but I feel like it would have helped sustain my stability. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess it would have helped
Sanity.
not burn out. It would have
Yeah.
helped me focus on what actually matters. Because like now that I'm around like friends and community and like I have that, like my mind is a lot more like straightforward. Like I can kind of, I know my priorities and like why I have them and blah blah blah. Like um I forget what your question was, but I think
Me
I
too.
was
Don't worry.
I think there might have been an answer in there.
No, definitely not.
But I remember it. But all that to say, I don't regret any of it. Like I
Yeah.
think the perspective I have now and the perspective I have now and the perspective I'm still learning as I enter a new job and like all this stuff, like I'm just learning so much. I'm so much about myself and so much about like the process, and I'm really enjoying the process. That's the most important thing. I just wouldn't have this perspective if I hadn't gone through all that, and the
Yeah.
appreciation for what I'm, the appreciation for everything I'm doing,
Yeah.
like climbing and photography. It's like back in like 2014 again when I was just working at Starbucks. It's like that whole drive is there again. It's just like whoa, like I I really understand how cool my life was in a way. Like
Yeah.
that's not coming from a cocky perspective. Like it gave me so much realization of like, whoa, I was really fortunate to have my own schedule, to be able to do what I do when I wanted, and why was I complaining at points? So it's just like a really good perspective shift.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's cool. That's awesome. In case there's someone, like someone who has followed you along that process of, every YouTube video, someone who has seen all your YouTube videos and the
Yeah.
daily, I'm sure you inspire people, man. I mean, I'm definitely a case of that. You've definitely inspired me. What would you say
Mm.
to those people, because I definitely see a bit of a closure of a season in your life, at least to the intensity that you were in YouTube and that kind of stuff. Like, what would be your message for someone like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's cheesy, but it's true. It's just like stay true to you. Like that's the most important thing. Um, I'd say live by that Stephen R. Covey quote I said, like just examine your own motivations, blah blah blah. Like when you can apply that to everything you do, I think it's a really good train track for you to like not get caught up in stuff that doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Um, I guess other stuff would be like keep things simple, don't complicate it. Um, I'm really good at that, at complicating things, at having too much food in my fridge. Um, and yeah, like at the end of the day, just make sure you're doing things for the right reasons and for yourself. Like don't try to compete against your next door neighbor or your biggest enemy
Mm.
or the other photographer in your city. Like just do it for yourself. And as long as you're doing better than, as long as you're finding success in the right definition of it for you, like that's all that matters. So
Right.
um yeah, I'm still figuring it out as well, so don't rush.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an
Yeah.
important one. Like, we're in constant state of figuring things out, and it's
Yeah.
crazy, like especially you, like even in, like if you said that those points in YouTube, like I definitely thought
Hmm.
of you as someone very genuine, and I do appreciate that because it's hard to find someone who actually gives you like calm and not make you feel like you're missing out on a life that you don't
Yeah.
have, right?
And that's what I want. Like, that's such a good point too, because it's just like with YouTube and social media, like it's really easy to feel that. And
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, like number one, like you're not seeing all the back end stuff. You're not seeing them grinding out at coffee shops, grinding it out on like so much airplane travel, like all the miscommunications and all the other stuff, like the food in the fridge that you have to deal with. Like you don't see that part of it. And at the end of the day, they have the same struggles you do,
Yeah.
like, and like, as I'm talking on this podcast, like I have my own problems too. Like I'm not this very dialed human. I'm just self-aware. Like
Right.
that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly learning. And so as the listeners like are looking at these people that are, traveling in Bali every other week or doing these crazy things, like at the end of the day, they probably have similar personal problems to you. They probably have this or that. Like the only thing they might have, like a lot of the big time people, like the only thing they have on you is money. And like at the end of the day, does that really matter? And the answer, to put it bluntly, is no. Like it really doesn't. Like have enough to get by and be happy, and that's all you need. Yeah, truly.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah. All right. So I think that will wrap it up. Any final thoughts?
Sick.
Anything you want to say?
No, like I think you asked some good questions at the end there, and
Thanks,
I
man.
would say, I think I should reel off a few books people should read though.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Book
I've become
recommendations.
such a big reader.
That's awesome, man. Okay. What are your book
Um,
recommendations?
so anything by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
I'm reading. I read Ego is the Enemy, Obstacle is the Way. I'm currently reading His Stillness is the Key, which is his most recent one.
Definitely.
Really good. Stillness, I'm like, is hitting heavy. Like I've been loving how he's written that book.
Awesome.
Power of Now, probably the most impactful book I've read all summer. Let's see. Not a book, but like I said earlier, just journal. Like it is, just start and do it. I'm on my third journal now. It's the best. And then let's see.
Nice.
The Alchemist. It's not a like a Stoicism book, but it's just a really good story that I think as you read it, people will apply it in different ways to their personal life. And then for a fun book, I mean, The Hunger Games, Harry Potter. I feel like I'm just like reading all the books I didn't read as a kid that like most kids read. So those ones too. But
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. I just want to add one final recommendation. You didn't ask me to say this, but your book looks amazing. And
oh, thank you. Yeah,
that is amazing, man. Can you just share a bit about it? Like, I would feel bad if I didn't ask you to talk about it.
No, I'll talk about it a bit. So I made this photography book. It's called How Does It Feel? And the idea came from like when you go to an art museum, like think about when you're walking around, you're not scrolling through, you're not looking at one thing, looking at one thing, moving, like just moving on like that. Like you'd look stupid. Like you're not going to spend 6 minutes in an art museum, but that's what you do on Instagram. It's just yeah, just draw a heart.
Double tapping everything.
Yeah, they'd love that. No, so like that's the thing. Like at an art museum, you're not gonna like you'd look stupid if you just like walked in and spend like 7 minutes and just like looked at everything real quick and called it good. So I wanted that's how people do social media. It's just like scroll, like, and it's just like it's like fast food. And I didn't want it to be fast food. I wanted it to be like, okay, well, I want to print out my work in a way that people can like sit there, feel it out, and just like take their time with it, like. And so it's also another way I did it is in collections. So Instagram, like it does have the carousel feature, which is cool, but again, you're still kind of just swiping and viewing a single image every time. It's still not viewing a collection as a whole. And I think there's something so valuable about that. Like when you look at people's blog posts or when you look at printed out photographs, like there's something so different about viewing it physically and in a collection. So that was the point of this book, really, it's like 150 some pages. I have some of my writing in there as well as some friends' writing, and it's just collections of some of my favorite images. And like it'll be collections like a collection that works together, but like the photos are from like different years, different locations. And then
Yeah.
it's like some are like totally all the same day, same location, same person. Like it just completely varies. And that was like the fun part about it. Like there was really no guidelines for me. I just kind of like went for it and just kind of created something that I really enjoyed looking at. And it's gotten a lot of good feedback. And the one thing I encourage you to do with it is just like take your time through it. Like I got this message from someone, they were like, yeah, I got through the first 40 pages of your book last night and I'm planning to like look at some more tomorrow. And I was like, dude, like you're really spending time. Like that made my day to hear that someone was like
So cool.
actually like sitting there looking at the work and being like, how does it feel to me? How do I perceive this collection? Because it's going to be super different from me to everyone else. Like my feelings are attached to those, as well as I know the people, the time, like where I was in life. And like if you view it, it's going to be something completely different because you don't have those connections. You don't have like it's really cool to like I've talked to some friends about it and they're like, oh, here's what I felt from this. I'm like, sick. Like wasn't expecting that, but like it's just cool, man. Like, and so that's the point of the book. You can get it on Shop Catalog, shopcatalog.com. I think there's worldwide shipping. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate any support. And
yeah, man, awesome. No, you just put so much passion into it. You can just feel it. Like it's very genuine, and I appreciate
it was like I think I spent like 200 or 300 hours on it like earlier this year, just like at my computer editing 24/7.
That's so cool, man. Awesome. I'll put that in the description. After all the whole spiel on social media and that kind of stuff, where can people find you either way?
Yeah. And like I guess to preface this, like I don't think social media is a bad thing. It's just how you use it and how you perceive it. But you can find me Andrew T. Kearns on Instagram and on YouTube. I think it's Andrew T. Kearns Vlogs. Yeah. And then I'll be on the Moment channel a lot more at Moment, I think, is their YouTube. At Moment is their Instagram. You can find their YouTube through that. I should probably know I work there. I run their YouTube channel.
I'll link it, don't worry.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll be doing a lot more on there. Right now I'm just doing a bunch of product stuff, but hopefully it'll move into more like educational stuff. Like that's the hope and that's the goal. So fingers crossed.
Okay. Awesome, man. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And
yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for having me.